I did, was able to, started worked for him for a while. That ended up, we ended up separating, having a difference in opinions how we were going to handle some things, with no big deal. And I started, or at the time, Valor Circle.
Valor Circle, yeah.
And I worked that for a couple of years, sold websites, realized I needed some help. Beth left her job in the publishing world and came to really handle all the operations.
Yeah.
Shortly into that, she realized that only one of us could probably be in charge if it was going to succeed, and she came to talk to me about only one of us could be in charge if it's going to succeed. I'm like, well, that's fine, honey. I don't mind being in charge. She then informed me that I misunderstood.
No.
That's not what she meant.
Yeah.
So we contacted an attorney for the first time since I got out of prison and arranged a buy-sell, and we sold the company to her because she knew me all too well. If I owned the company, then I wasn't going to listen to her. But it was great because for years I had the best joke in the world, and I know this is a church podcast, but I'm going to say it anyway. People go, well, what do you do? I'm like, I sleep with my boss. Now, she was my wife, so it was okay, but, it was just an awesome line to have to be able to say that. It was really great. And
so good.
I used it a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
So we were so blessed. We grew that company. It grew. We had good times and bad times, like every entrepreneurial company does.
Yeah.
Went into COVID in 2020, and that really changed our whole company. Overnight we're like, okay, everybody on the team, we had about 15 of us, everybody's going home, you're taking everything on your desk, we'll see you tomorrow, and could Lord please make this work. And miraculously, it was better than having everybody in an office. It worked really well. We had an amazing team. They did an amazing job. Business ended up being good because during COVID, people needed better websites and needed all that. And we got to the end of COVID, and we both looked at each other and went, this was a good year, but man, that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
We got to figure out a better way to do this. And so we ended up hiring a coach, and he was an agency coach that taught agencies like us how to do better, how to scale, and we reinvented the entire company. And that was a huge blessing from God that we found them. Again, another Christian guy, his name's Josh Nelson, just absolutely fantastic coach, fantastic organization. And we were able to rebuild the company in less than a year. That went great. Things were growing. We were, again, by all appearances, things were great, and they felt pretty good. I mean, we were blessed. Things were good. Just before COVID, we'd moved back up to Fremont. That one thing I told earlier in episode 1, I was never coming back.
Yeah,
I came back.
Yeah.
I remember my wife and I decided we wanted.
Did you say this is instead of Full Circle, this is a Valorous Circle?
No, we didn't. But that would have been good. We decided we wanted to move, and my wife and I tend to like to do that about every 3 to 5 years. We've moved quite a bit. And she says, I found the perfect place for us. It was out in the country, had some acreage, and she goes, it's great. I'm like, great, let's go take a look at it. And she goes, it's in Fremont. I go, nope.
I'm out.
And she goes, you're going to go look at it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yes, dear. I'll go ahead and look at it. And I'm like, I'm not moving back up to Fremont. There's nothing wrong with Fremont, but I grew up here, and, it was just one of those, I didn't want to be back here.
Battleship Gray.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And drove up here and walked the property, fell in love with it, bought it, and we're like, oh man, this is amazing. And that was just before COVID. It was a total God thing that he brought us to a place that, and if you suffer through COVID, I get it. We didn't have to suffer through it a lot of in the normal ways. And a big part of that was because we were here in Fremont, and people in Fremont just weren't as uptight about it. In Grand Rapids, people got really uptight, and regardless how you felt about it, it was that negativity and that fear surrounding it. And again, from what we've talked about, I'm not a big fear person. I mean, I have my moments, don't get me wrong, but you shared with me about a year ago, let God write the end of this story. And some of the most powerful words that I've heard, and it's been so good as a reminder that when crap happens in life, and crap does happen in life, doesn't matter who you are. Remember, God's still in control. At the end of the day, he wins. And worst case, I get hit by a bus and I get to see him tonight. And that ain't all bad. So when I realize that's the worst that can happen, my brain goes, well, geez, I can handle pretty much anything if that's the worst that's going to happen. So we moved up here. Things were great. Business was good. And then as we continued to grow, I realized that my ADD brain, my visionary style, didn't fit well as we continued to grow the company, because the larger the company got, the more we needed processes that got followed, and the more. And Matthew, you may not be able to relate. You're more of a perfectionist than I am, but I see rules as things that are meant to be broken.
Yeah, no, I'm that way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you give me a rule, and I'm going to figure out how I can legitimately get around it. And I'm not here to like be. That's not why I went to prison, but
Right.
I just kind of look at that. Rules are meant to be bent. Those are like highly recommended suggestions for life, but they're not rules. And as we grew, it became apparent that I was really causing more problems than not, because I still wanted to do things the way I'd done them for 15 years. And even I understood there was a better way to do them. But what would happen is, clients would call out. I'd go, I'm going to help the team, so I'll take care of this project. And then 6 months later, the clients would call back and somebody would go, who did this?
Yeah.
Oh, Jonathan did that.
The founder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
You
Jonathan
started the
did
whole
that.
thing. Yeah.
It solved the problem, but it didn't do it the right way. And then they'd have to redo things. So I was causing more work and stress.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I'd been thinking I wanted to do something different. We'd been there, and I've been doing that for almost 15 years. I was ready to try something different. And then AI came out, and I just fell in love with that as an ADD entrepreneur. It was like, my superpower unleashed.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell people how to use it and help educate them to what an incredible tool it was.
Yeah.
Brady, you mentioned, you didn't have a great opinion of it. That's not unusual, especially in Christian circles.
Right.
A lot of people had really negative perspectives. They're much more positive now at the end of 2024 and early 2025 than they were when it came out. But
Sure.
I just wanted to teach people it was an amazing tool. And so I was really blessed to be in a situation I could step away, and Beth kept the company and kept running it. She'd owned it now for over a decade anyway, and she had been leading it, so it wasn't a big thing. I had to stop telling people I slept with my boss. But
It's probably smart.
Yeah, but it'd be weird, with just me. So I went out and sorry, I'm not good with this church-based podcast.
No,
stuff.
it's probably because we're not the most mature either.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what it is. Yeah.
So we're sitting around, and I'm like, I'm going to start a consulting company. And Beth's like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm really not sure, but we'll just start something, and I'll figure it out as I go along. And so we're doing the least favorite thing I do about companies, and that's picking a name. I hate picking names.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it. One of us, I don't remember who, probably Beth, because she's smarter than me. She goes, well, why don't you Whitebeard, or something with Whitebeard? And I've got this long white beard. I started growing this when my granddaughter was born 7 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, I could do that. So I ended up forming Whitebeard Strategies.
Yeah.
Did a couple pivots and different things, but AI really kept being on it. And over the last, fast forward over the last year and a half, have built up a very large community on Facebook and a large email list and that. And now I'm so blessed because I get to do something I love, which is talking and helping others, and literally, winging it, which I love to do. I spent a lot of time learning AI, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but I don't have to, Sadie did this beautiful job. You probably can't see it, putting all these notes together that I've not read. By the way, thank you, Sadie. That was really cool.
Sent them 48 hours out.
Yeah.
That Jonathan could look at them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
I think she used AI to actually make these questions.
Well, that's good. That's just not who I am. That's not who I am. So God has really just blessed us by putting me in a position where, again, I can use the skills that He's given me, which aren't around details and paperwork and all that type of stuff, and still hopefully reach others and do that in a way. While I'm not a pastor and I'm not out there, it's not my ministry. I've always believed that Christian business people needed to demonstrate Christ's love through their actions.
Yeah.
The fruits we bear were testament to our faith. And then if we did more of that and maybe a little less preaching, no offense to you guys in church, but we all have run into people in the workplace. They want to baptize us every time they see us, and that doesn't always go over well.
Yeah.
And I've always thought it'd be better if we could just, by example, say this is what Christ would be like. And obviously, I fail on that, but if I can shoot for that, and God's now put me in a position where I get to do that, and I get to share things that are going on in my life, and I have people that are like, stop sharing all that Bible stuff. I don't want to hear it. And it's like, well, you're welcome to leave then. This is who I am, and this is what I am. And one of the things I learned in prison when I was there was to stop caring so much about what people thought. I got in trouble because I was afraid of, what are people going to think if I lose my job? What are people going to think if I don't make this money? What are people think if I can't afford my house?
Yeah.
those were the thoughts that went through my head when my boss said, "You're going to tell a lie," and I'm like, "I don't know." And he goes, "Do you like your job?" Well, you know, it's amazing. It's like probably like free falling. It's like all that quick. All those thoughts go through my head, and I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it," because I was worried about what other people would think. And in prison, I learned that, you know, God put me in a situation where I better get over what people were going to think, because most people weren't going to think very good of it. So I just had to, in my own weird of believing, it was God's way of teaching me that lesson that I needed to go, you're not going to be offensive, but you're not going to worry about what people think.